Well, welcome to part 2 of my video after the Texas race review. It can also be said with Scott Dixon that he's inching further and further to becoming the second winningest driver in IndyCar history behind Mario Andretti. AJ Foyt has the most wins. At the rate Scott Dixon's going, he could become the second winningest. For the moment, he's third. Now onto the Formula One news at last. The unfortunate aftermath results that continue to plague the world because of this pandemic has cancelled not only the Dutch Grand Prix, but the Azerbaijani, the Singapore, and Japanese Grand Prix for 2020 have been scrubbed. For the first race, which will take place on July 5th in Austria, then there'll be a doubleheader, the second round in Austria on the 12th, then they will go to Britain. And speaking of Britain and British-owned F1 teams, what you see before you is models of cars from the Williams F1 racing team based in Grove, Oxfordshire, England. And as you can see in the title, Williams is in deep trouble financially because not only have they been not getting the race result they wanted, they haven't won a race since 2012 Spanish Grand Prix with Venezuela's Pastor Maldonado in his one and only F1 win. Still, it was quite a sight to see. With Mercedes being the engine supplier for Williams as of this year, and hopefully onward, it's unfortunate they have lost their biggest sponsor that was supposed to be contracted with them till 2023, called Rocket. What's going to happen from there on, I don't know. And it would be a shame to lose such a memorable racing team that began in 1978 and has given 7 different champions from 1980 to 1997. In 1980, Williams won the Drivers' Championship with Alan Jones of Australia. In 82, it was K.K. Rosberg of Finland. In 1987, Nelson Piquet of Brazil. In 1992, it was Nigel Mansell. 1993, Alain Prost of France. 1996, Damon Hill of England. And 97, Jacques Villeneuve of Canada. And to delve into the history of Williams here, if you're wondering which models are these exactly, I'll tell you. These two Williams here are the Williams FW22s with Beamer engines, driven in the 2000 season by Ralf Schumacher of Germany and Jenson Button of Britain. Unfortunately, the best results they could muster up was 3 third-place finishes by Ralf Schumacher in Australia, Belgium, and Italy, while Jenson Button could only get a best finish of 4th in Germany. This is the Williams-Renault FW16, driven in the 1994 season by Nigel Mansell, who won with Williams in '92 the championship. But this is him replacing the late Ayrton Senna, who was killed a few months before at San Marino. While David Coulthard of Scotland originally took over Senna's spot, being Damon Hill's teammate, eventually the last few rounds of the season went to Nigel Mansell, and while Damon Hill was duking it out with Michael Schumacher for the win at Adelaide, Australia, they both took each other out and crushed Damon Hill's chances of winning the championship, with Michael Schumacher becoming the first German winning the championship, as well as his first of 7 world championships. 6 more would follow, 5 of them with Ferrari. His second championship again with Benetton the following year. But all wasn't lost for Williams-Renault. While Damon Hill's dreams of championship glory were shattered, Nigel Mansell would carry the flag for Williams-Renault to win the race after returning from a disappointing, dismal '94 IndyCar season, and go back to his winning ways in Formula One by winning in Adelaide and helping Williams-Renault claim the Constructors' title. The car on the right is the Williams-Renault FW15, driven by my favorite F1 driver of all time, Damon Hill, in the 1993 F1 season, who was teammates to Alain Prost, who won the championship that year. This was Damon Hill's biggest breakthrough in his career, because this was his full-time season in F1, his first, and one of the few times that the number 0 has been used in F1 on a race car. His first win came at Hungary. Then 2 more would follow in Belgium and Italy. And that's how Damon Hill's career began to take off from there. Flash forward to 3 years later, and to the car you see to the left is the Williams-Renault FW18 from the 1996 season, which thrust Damon Hill to a championship victory. He won 8 out of 16 races that year, beating his Canadian rookie teammate Jacques Villeneuve to the title. Well, there you have it. This is my entire Williams set in my collection. Where there's a Williams, there's a way. In addition, I just hope that Frank and his daughter Claire, who run the operation, Frank Williams that is, can find a buyer, if they have to, that will run the operations with success and give it a good name if they can't keep it up very long. This pandemic is no doubt causing this situation to become worse for them. I hope they pull through. But in other news, I just found out that on this very day, that Alex Zanardi, two-time kart champion with Chip Ganassi in 97 and 98, and one-time drove for Williams in 1999, after a while not racing in F1, where he used to drive for Lotus in 93 and 4, has just gotten involved in a handbike accident. And if you're wondering what's that, well, for those who don't know, Alex Zanardi from Italy, he was riding a hand bicycle and he got in an accident in Siena today and he's been airlifted to a hospital, so I'm praying he pulls through. He lost his legs in a kart race crash at the Lausitzring in Germany in 2001, if you're wondering what happened. But surprisingly, he pulled through to become a Paralympic champion, and gold medalist for that matter, and had his share of racing sports cars with especially hand-operated controls without the use of his legs, since they had to amputate him. And it's a shame because of the split that occurred in 96. We'll never know if Alex Zanardi would have contested the Indianapolis 500, if not won it. But if there's one thing Alex Zanardi is famous for, in Indy cars to say the least, or a kart in those days, was whenever he'd win with his target Chip Ganassi Racing Honda, would do donuts. And that's how basically the celebration of drivers spinning their car around in circles began when they won races. He may not have done it, never won their contested Indianapolis, but at least there's one driver who did do donuts after winning the Indy 500. It was Dan Weldon in 2005, only to run out of fuel during the lap of honor, but hey, that was a great run. Well, that's all for now. Stay tuned for July 4th. The Indy cars start up again at the Indy GP Road Course on NBC, and July 5th, Formula One finally begins. It's lights out then at Austria. Will the hills be alive with Red Bull? Or will Mercedes continue their winning ways since their last race in November 2019? That is to be decided. I'm Aaron Cylinder, firing on all cylinders.